Hey, my name is Lizzie Smiley, and I absolutely love helping people connect with their calling and all the tools they need to kick roadblocks and excuses right out the door so they can cultivate the life they dream about. If you want to launch, grow, pivot, or scale your Etsy shop, or you've always wanted to develop the mindset and skills to run your own business, then I'm your girl. I've had that entrepreneurial spirit going strong since my very first lemonade stand, and now I'm a work-at-home mama with multiple online companies and a full-time Etsy shop, all while being present with my kids for the everyday chaos and most important milestones. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things business, mindset, Etsy, creativity, dazzling our customers, and so much more. There's plenty of room at this table for you, so scooch on in and let's go. I'm holding nothing back. Welcome to How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. I'm so glad you're here. Hey y'all, welcome back to the show this week. I'm excited to be with you and geek out about Etsy. And today we have another amazing success story from one of our very own listeners who applied to be on the podcast. So let's dig into her story. I don't think I have a whole ton to tell you other than the How to Sell Your Stuff YouTube channel is continuing to grow and have new videos. So if you haven't come out there yet, we're just past 3,000 subscribers, and I would love to have you join me. I'm continuing just to serve even more out there. And I don't think there's anything else immediately going on. So let's get into Kelley's bio here. So she was a Barnes & Noble bookstore manager for 20 years, and she opened her Etsy shop, Gems by Kelley, in 2013. She quit Barnes & Noble in 2015 to focus on Etsy full-time. And as of today, she has exceeded $655,000 in revenue in her Gems shop so far, which is completely incredible. She began creating digital art in the Procreate app in 2017. That is so cool. I've been wanting to learn Procreate, and began teaching digital art on Skillshare in 2020 for passive income. Skillshare is amazing, you guys. She's a rising teacher on Skillshare. Which means that she has several courses that a lot of people have enjoyed. So it's sort of like having the star seller badge on Etsy. And she's now shifting to teaching about selling on Etsy on Skillshare as well. And she just published her first class in a series of Etsy courses called Etsy Seller Success: 4 Ways to Stand Out in a Crowded Marketplace. And so she has joined us on the show to share her story about her amazing success in the jewelry niche on Etsy. This is such a fun conversation. We are able to cover so many facets. Kelley has been on Etsy for 3 years longer than I have, and she's got thousands more sales than I ever had. So her wisdom on this is completely inspiring, and it's been so fun having this conversation with her. So please help me welcome Kelley to the podcast. Yay! Hey, Kelley, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lizzie. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for applying to be on the podcast. You guys, this should inspire you. Kelley is a listener, and she went through the podcast application that's down below to share her story, and it's a really good one. I love when we can get like really successful jewelry sellers who've got the insight, because it's a niche so many people want to get into, and it's kind of challenging. So it was like an easy yes when I saw what you were up to. So tell us your story, Kelley. What's your background like? Pre-Etsy, BE, before Etsy.
Before Etsy, yeah, it definitely is there's a big like before and after Etsy, and before and after Skillshare where I teach. But I graduated from college, and during college I was a waitress and an editor at our college newspaper. And after that, I started working at Barnes & Noble as a part-time bookseller. And I loved working with books and bookish people. So I was at Barnes & Noble for 20 years. I never intended to do that, and it just worked out. So I was a manager for most of my time at Barnes & Noble bookstores. I worked at 6 different stores.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So including Wisconsin, and but mostly in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I love Barnes & Noble. Like I really miss the books. I mean, we still have them, but I'm just saying, like, you know, the classic bookstore and how it's like disappearing off the map. It makes me kind of very sad.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, Barnes & Noble was, you know, the big bad corporate bookstore, but then Amazon came along and, you know, people wanted to protect Barnes & Noble more because people want a space where they can go and look at books and browse. Yeah, I love bookstores, and I still go to Barnes & Noble and buy books and browse.
I'm glad they've survived. Okay. So that's a long time, 20 years at Barnes and Noble.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so when was your last year there? How long ago?
It was 2015.
Okay.
So if we back up to 2006, I started making handmade jewelry when I was at Barnes and Noble. And it was my first real creative outlet. And I just got obsessed and I started making and jewelry. And I had no exit strategy for all of this jewelry. And there's only so much jewelry. So I tried to sell in person. This is 2006. So Etsy launched, I think, in 2005. So I knew about Etsy, but I didn't think I was like cool enough or techie enough to sell on Etsy. And, of course, you don't need to be cool or techie to sell on Etsy.
Isn't that the thing, though? We all have that imposter syndrome, I think, at first. Like, I'm not artsy enough to be on Etsy. And then look at you. You're you've made so many sales.
Yeah. But it was a self-limiting belief I had for a long time. And so that was 2006. I was still at Barnes and Noble. And then I met my husband to be shortly after that. And I had just been a dining room table jewelry maker. Like so many of us start just making crafts at our dining room table, but he's a great cook. And so then we started using my dining room table for like dining.
I was so curious to see what the connection was. You needed to eat at the table. Okay.
And before, I was just doing the single girl, whatever. Like I don't cook at all. You don't? Okay. Okay. I have literally never fried an egg.
That is amazing. I'm so happy for you. Honestly, I fried one 30 minutes ago. So that's amazing.
I have not. I made meatloaf for him once, like in the courtship phase, and then he took over the meatloaf.
Well, you know what? Okay, good. So you filled in the gap with a guy who could take care of that for you. And I love that. So table becomes a romantic dining experience as opposed to your jewelry studio is the bottom line.
Exactly. And I got distracted. I had a puppy and a husband, a fiance and this dog. And I just got distracted. And like I said, I was spending so much money on jewelry supplies. And it was just this ridiculously expensive hobby with no exit strategy. Then it was years later that I was going to my friend's wedding. I was invited to my friend's wedding and I wanted earrings to wear to my friend's wedding. And I was looking at my hair salon and I'm like, I could totally make these cheaper and better. And so I did. And then it just started all over again. So finally, 7 years after I started making handmade jewelry, I opened my Etsy shop.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was after, my second round when I got back into it. I'm like, I'm just going to do it this time. And I love Barnes and Noble, but it is a corporation. It's a corporate place with corporate rules. And I am basically an introvert. And I am just made to be at home with my dog and work. Like I love it so much. Like after I left Barnes and Noble, I was like, I was in the wrong career for 20 years. Like I didn't know. I was I was exhausted. I didn't know I was so exhausted at the end of the day. And so
its capacity gets zapped by all the people by having to put on the face and do it's just, yes, I completely understand.
Yep. And the greatest thing about being self-employed is like, you get to be yourself full time, like if you're doing it the way I do it, and the way you do it, you get to be yourself full time and you get to make your own rules and do what's right for you, not following some rules. And I just decided to bet on myself, so I quit Barnes and Noble 2 years after I started my Etsy shop. So that brings us to 2015. And I quit Barnes and Noble. And it was the biggest risk of my life.
Okay. Like your shop wasn't making up your income yet? No. She's making this face like not even close, Lizzie.
Yeah. However, it was doubling essentially every year in the beginning.
Yeah. So good.
I figured if I did that, if I kept doubling and then, hopefully more than that, since I would be putting full time into it, that I could do it. So we paid off our all the debt that we could other than our home and cars. And and I quit.
So, okay. So first of all, what kind of drew you to jewelry making from the get-go? Like, had you done that as a child, or what made you decide I love jewelry making?
Yeah, I never considered myself an artist. And I always had this preconception that artists were like these dramatic, flaky people. Like, I don't know why. I don't know if it was just my upbringing. And we didn't have a lot of money. So there wasn't, it wasn't like I read a ton as a kid, but I wasn't super crafty and I didn't even have that like around me. My gym, I'm just kind of remembering this. It's funny you ask. My gym that I went to back in the day was across the street from a bead store in Minneapolis. So I was at the YWCA on the Stairmaster, and I'd be looking across the street at this bead store. And I was intimidated to go in it. It was very strange, but I went in it, and then I was like, I started buying stuff, and yeah, that's how it started.
It was all about the beads.
Stopped. Yeah. So
I had those little tiny ones, like, I don't know. When I was a kid, I was making necklaces and bracelets out of those tiny, are they called seed beads? I don't know at all.
Little tiny ones are called seed beads. I do some seed bead things. Right now, my niche is mostly pearls and also I do birthstone jewelry like garnets.
It is so in right now, isn't it? Like birthstones, gemstones, crystals, like so in.
Yes, and it gives an opportunity to tie into that giftable niche that I haven't done entirely, but like if you have a garnet bracelet, you can sell it as a garnet bracelet, and then you can duplicate that listing and sell it also as a birthstone present marketed toward a specific like astrology sign and do that whole 9 yards. But I do include with my jewelry a little card with each one with like the healing properties of the gemstones. Like,
love it.
Yeah, which I don't know if I believe in it 100%, but I do believe our minds are powerful, and that if you set the intention that, this piece of jewelry is, going to help you, be more calm or whatever it is you want. I believe that's powerful.
I think that what makes it so special for Etsy is that it gives what you're selling a little more of a story than just here is a garnet bracelet. It's just the positioning of the product that is so interesting to me. And the more personalized you make it by like, oh, you know what? I'm really hoping to bring more love into my life. Like it's nice to associate this type of gemstone with that, whether we believe in it or not. So many people do. So I love that it gives your product more of a story. It just makes it more saleable. So brilliant on the duplication of the product. Tell me about like your first year or two, because it sounds like it started doubling kind of every year, but what was it like in the beginning? Did you have a lot of sales up front, like that first month or two? What happened?
Can you hear my dog prancing around?
I can, it's so cute. I can kind of hear his like collar jingle, but literally if I tell like 9 times out of 10, this is happening on our podcast recording. So honestly, we're here for it. So tell the listeners about your dog though, because he's really cute.
His name is Murphy. He's an old English bulldog. He's 11 years old, which is pretty old for a bulldog.
He's a big boy.
He's our baby. He, we don't have any kids. And so we are dog parents.
He is living his best life for sure. But so no, he's not distracting us at all. He is more than welcome here with us for sure. So first like month or two, what was that kind of like for you?
It was slow, and I had friends that bought jewelry from me. And, this is fine. I wasn't really thinking about telling the story, but do you remember treasuries on Etsy?
No, that doesn't ring a bell at all.
Like people would create treasuries and they would put a bunch of listings together with themes. Like I remember I had a peacock treasury, right? And so it was like something that sellers would put a lot of time into. And I don't think it was that productive, but it was a thing. And I met someone in a treasury in my first month, and her name is Jax, and she was also selling jewelry. And we are still friends to this day. And her shop is even more successful than mine because I've pivoted, but she's stayed with jewelry. So I have an Etsy bestie, and she and I were our first sales. So we were new on Etsy. We weren't getting anywhere. We're like, you put all this work into it and you think something's going to happen, but then nothing happens. So she bought some earrings from me, and I bought a necklace from her, and we were each other's first review.
I love that so much. So, okay, I think though that so Treasury isn't just your shop. You would do it with other shops, like tons of shops that put something in the Peacock Treasury. It's almost like that's what they used to do before categories then, or something like that.
Yeah, it was like, let's just say it was 9 listings and they were displayed in a square, right? And so maybe you would put one of your listings in there, but that it was more about featuring other people's listings.
Oh, I love that.
Somebody featured me and Jax in a treasury, and then you're chatting in the treasury, and we became each other's first sale, and we exchanged phone numbers, and now we're still friends to this day. We've exchanged millions of texts, and so it's been really helpful to have someone. She would try something and it would work, or try something and it wouldn't work, and we would just help each other like that. So that was really, it's been a really special relationship.
Gosh, it's almost kind of sad that we don't have a way to connect with people on like other Etsy sellers like that now. I guess our Facebook group would be how we would do it, but that's so cool. Also, that's like the way to do it, Kelley, because we're not supposed to buy from our own shop. That's like, violating terms. Yeah. It's even a little sketchy when family does it, but so long as you don't give them a coupon code, you can kind of go away with it. But that is brilliant. Do you know what kind of tipped the scales for you? Like, where did you go from only people who knew you were buying to like strangers were finding you and buying? Like, do you know what caused the change?
I don't know what caused the change, but I can tell you it took a month and a half for my first sale from a stranger, and her name was Lizzie, and she lived in the UK. So yeah, because I've been working on this course about Etsy, so I've been going way back and looking at it, and it's really cool. Like, it's brought me to tears sometimes just thinking about the whole journey and like all the, like I didn't know how it would turn out, and you just got to get started, get on a path, and just go. But I just kept making things. And yes, dear Lizzie from the UK bought a pair of earrings from me, and I opened in September, which I think is a really good time to open, because I got some sales before the holidays, and the holidays were pretty good. I think, I don't remember how many. Yeah, I had all these numbers, but yeah, it just grew slowly. But yeah, it did take a month and a half for my first sale. That was an organic sale and not a friend that was purchasing, that looked at my shop and browsed and found something that they wanted to buy.
Did you find yourself making like changes and tweaks to your shop as though like that first year went along? Like, you kind of learned something that would work and then implement it, or?
Yeah, I took photos over and over and over.
That's so relatable. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, there's a quote from a famous photographer that says something like, "Your first 100,000 photos are your worst," and that is true. I got some like false messages in there, like Lizzie bought these crystal earrings that were kind of autumnal colored, and I was like, okay, so this is it, and so I like, but it wasn't, it was, how you sell something on Etsy and then it's popular for a while, and then for some reason it just is not popular anymore, and then something else pops up. Yeah. But over time, I started making beaded bracelets instead of earrings. At first, it was all earrings. I noticed when I was making bracelets that people would buy multiple bracelets for stacking. So I was like, okay, I like this. And earrings, when I would make like wire wrapped earrings or something, they would make me feel really OCD because I'd be lining them up and I'd want them to be like matching and the same. It just made me kind of crazy. And I really wanted a product that could be consistent over time. And so that's why I've kind of niched to these gemstone bracelets that I sell over and over again, pearl bracelets, pearl necklaces. And they're at a higher price point, I guess. I think my pearl bracelets are around $50 and my necklaces are over $100. And I think that's another way to niche that people don't think about at all. There are people that do not want to buy a $10 bracelet. They want to buy a $50 plus bracelet. And there's other people that don't want a $50 bracelet. They want a bracelet that's, $100 or 1,000, So there's all different types of people. And I think if you can position yourself at a higher price point, that is a great way to niche. Because when I was researching for this class, I was searching by different price points, and the market gets a lot less crowded up at the higher prices. It really does. And I know people can't start that way all the time. Like I started with brass jewelry and stainless steel, but now I do sterling silver and 14 karat gold filled. And I think there's a great market for pure gold jewelry on Etsy, which is, of course, is a lot more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a better profit margin too. So yeah, there's just so many bracelets at a low, or jewelry at a low price point on Etsy, that if you can afford to go up a little bit, I think you can set yourself apart.
I think that's a super interesting approach. You're instead of trying to move volume, you focus on being a luxury brand. And then you do have to have the photos, the shop setup, the tone, the logo that matches that. You can't have just I threw something together in Canva logo and effectively it's a different approach, but I think it's a really smart one. I think that's really cool.
And I did throw something together in Canva, and at this point,
you could make it right. Like you could elevate it, but I'm just saying, like someone who's never been on there before, you've got to, yeah.
Yes, I think that is something that a lot of people could tap into if they can afford it. That's the other thing,
right.
I didn't start at that point. I got to that point over years. Do
you remember when your shop replaced your Barnes and Noble income?
I don't remember that exactly, but I remember my first day where my sales were $100,000 day. Yeah. 100, no, 1,000. I'm looking at my husband.
Like 100,000. That's incredible. Like,
but no, yeah, I have an issue with numbers and zeros. Like
me too.
Yeah, if somebody says 100,000, I'm like, yeah.
Like I almost got to write it down. Like, let me see, what is that?
Yeah. I said to when I was doing the Etsy class, I searched jewelry on Etsy. Over 25 million responses came up. So there are over, this was before the holidays. Right now it's about 24 million. But I was like, Chris, if it's 25,00,0, he's like, yeah, that's 25 million. Yes. My first year where I exceeded 6 figures was 2020. And I exceeded 6 figures again in 2021. And also in 2020, I started teaching online courses on Skillshare because it was the pandemic. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen to my business. This is all I have. I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. Yeah. So little did I know that my shop would really take off along with a lot of other people's Etsy shops and online businesses during the pandemic. So I was really busy. And I'm so glad that I did it. I get bored and I move on to the next thing. And also passive income is super important to me.
So I have a question for you. Can I be your coach? Since 2012, I've been working with business owners in all different walks of life and helping them figure out how to grow their businesses, develop themselves, work through fears and challenges, launch a new idea, or create a very fresh vision for their life. One of my core strengths is generating ideas and casting vision on a project. And I would just love to do that for you. Whether you need coaching for your Etsy shop or a completely different business project, I'm here to partner with you for breakthrough and brainstorm brilliant strategies with you. My experience in everything from corporate America to network marketing to consulting, web design, blogging, Etsy, Shopify, social media management, and now course creation and podcasting has given me quite the breadth of knowledge to help my fellow entrepreneur. And I would be totally delighted to work with you. You can book a coaching session over at howtosellyourstuff.com or shoot me an email at lizziesmiley@yahoo.com and we'll find out if we'd be a good fit. I cannot wait to meet you and hear what you're dreaming about. Do you make your jewelry to order, or do you have a bunch of it ready to go?
I make it to order because it's really important for me to offer inclusive sizes. So with bracelets, I start at a 6-inch long bracelet, and I go up to 9.5 inches. So people can also wear them as anklets. But I really wanted, it was really important for me to offer inclusive sizing. And I think that's something that sets me apart too. I use that as a word, like, plus size bracelet, extra large bracelet, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And
then you don't know what's coming in. You can't have that many of all of the, you just don't know what, does it grow by 1/2 inch or 1 inch increments in your sizing?
A 1/2 inch.
Okay.
Yeah. I do 1/4 inches, but I don't offer it just because I don't want to overwhelm people with choices. Mm-hmm. But if somebody wants, say a 7.25 inch bracelet, I will do that.
So you still really busy every day making jewelry, like all the time?
I mean, yes and no. I used to ship within 1 to 3 business days, and now I'm 2 to 4 business days. And that has not affected my income that much. So I try and batch whenever possible. I mean, I think batching is the way to go. And I love listening to podcasts and audiobooks. So for a while, I thought I would ditch my jewelry shop. But now I'm like, I really like it. I like to sit down and do something, it's brainless for me at this point in time. I listen to podcasts, I listen to audiobooks, I listen to your podcast. And so I'm like growing my knowledge while I'm making jewelry.
It's kind of soothing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what's so interesting about you, Kelley, is you've watched this go from, you've been on Etsy for so long that you've watched it go through several iterations. Are you doing things really differently now than you did a couple of years ago? Maybe like 2019, pre-pandemic?
No.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And I can tell you this about Etsy. Back in that time too, people are like, this is the end of Etsy. It's oversaturated. This isn't the good old days, and that was, back in 2013. So, and people are still saying that about Etsy, and it's still not true. There's still room on Etsy for people, especially people who are niching. At a certain point in time, my jewelry shop was established and I wasn't adding anything new. And by that point in time, I had 2 professional photo shoots with a local photographer and my next door neighbor, who's really beautiful inside and out. She was my model. So I had those photos. I had the listings. I was only going down as far as inventory went. At one point in time, I had 350 listings, and now I have about 123. So I also had 2 very part-time employees for a while around 2020. And I realized at that point in time, it was very hard to train somebody like how to make 300 different, like, it's just kind of impossible. Like, this is like the different stones and all that kind of thing. So I realized at that point in time that I wanted to just keep narrowing. So I just would have a smaller shop with more bestsellers. So I'm still selling out on things now to this day. If something sells out, I will order more of it if it's available and if it sells well. But if it was just kind of a mediocre seller or inconsistent, then I haven't replenished that.
So interesting. You know what, Kelley, when I first took a peek at your jewelry shop, I thought you were the model.
Oh, yeah.
You'd sent me your headshot and I saw that and I thought you were the model. So that's so interesting. What was it like working with a model? And you've been so smart, like your photography is top notch. I think for jewelry, you can't get away with anything else. Yeah. So you were so brilliant to do that. Tell us about that experience, like hiring a photographer, a model. How did you pick? How did you position? Did the photographer know how to do all that? Or were you like, it needs to look like this? I'm just so curious.
Yeah. No, it actually kind of fell together. So Megan was literally the girl next door, my next door neighbor. We're still friends. We were in book club together. And she had recently gotten married. And we were talking about, her being a model for me. And she was like, well, when I got married, this woman was my photographer and this woman did my makeup. And I'm like, let's do that, you know? And so we used the same makeup artist that she used for her wedding and the same photographer that she used for her wedding, the photographer also had a studio in Minneapolis. And I did my headshots at the same time.
Okay.
And Megan has a small business too, or had a small business. And so she got her headshots done during that time too. And that was like my gift.
Leverage. Oh, that's so nice. Okay. Yeah. Because you paid for the shoot. Yeah.
So it was really like my headshots, her headshots, and then the jewelry photography all at the same time. And Megan's very sweet. And she's never really modeled before, but she was great. She had a real knack for it. And because these people had worked with her before, it made it, I think, a lot easier to do.
Was it like, had they taken product photography before? Because something I've noticed is if you get someone who's used to shooting weddings and things like that, it's a really different skill set than actually taking pictures of products. But I guess in that case, they're focused on the person again anyway, right? It's different than like a product on a case or something like that.
Well, one mistake I think I did make with the photos, and it could be from someone who is not super experienced with product photos, is I wanted to get my bang for my buck. So like I stacked a bunch of bracelets, and that was cool. It looks cool, but not when you're selling a bracelet necessarily. Like if I were to do
your shop header, right? Not in your listing photo, like use it for your marketing, not, correct.
Right. Yes. But I did use it for my listing photos, and people would get confused. Obviously now, or, I sell small bracelets. So, she'd have like 3 peridot bracelets layered, and people would order them and they would think it would be one big bracelet instead of the layered bracelets. So that was a mistake that I made. And I also we didn't always zoom in enough, so you need different photos. You need like the pretty stacked bracelet kind of thing. But then really what people want to see is, what does this one bracelet look like on a person's wrist? So we didn't do enough of that, I don't think. The number one complaint I get in my jewelry shop is it was smaller than I expected.
Okay.
Whatever people can do to show scale. Like I'm a star seller on Etsy. I'm consistently a star seller, so I get great reviews, but really the number one, it's the only consistent review I get, is it was smaller than I expected.
That is so interesting and I guess it makes sense, right? Everyone's wrist is different. And so you can see it on someone's wrist, but it still doesn't tell you the scale of yours. Mm-hmm. I remember when I got my Aura ring, you had to do like a measuring, well, you didn't have to, but you could order a measuring kit in the beginning. It wouldn't work for an Etsy seller, but they send you a thing to try, you try on different rings to see.
Yeah.
It's obviously like a higher end purchase, but like, sizing on people's bodies is a whole situation.
Yes. And people, I get so many pictures of people's wrists in my inbox, and so they'll put one person put a tube of chapstick next to their wrist.
How does that help anything?
They're like, what? They're just like, seriously, like, what? Here's chapstick. Here's my wrist. What size bracelet do I need? Or every woman says, I have such a tiny wrist. I'm so I have such a tiny wrist, and they're always like ordering too small. But actually, after listening to your podcast, I haven't done this yet. But what I did was I created a digital download ruler that people can print out. This is you, Lizzie. It's because you said once every shop could do a digital download or some kind of no matter what your shop is, you can do some kind of passive income, right? So it's like, and sizing is the big thing for bracelets, especially because I order a range. So I created a digital download ruler, and I think I'm going to sell it because people sell them on Etsy for up to $4.
Okay.
Because it is a real puzzler for people. They don't know how to measure their wrist. They don't have a ruler. So this one, you can print it out and you can wrap it around your wrist, and then people could, show me that picture if they had any questions. So I have not listed that yet, but I'm going to.
I think that's so smart because I was thinking through that. I was just like, you know what? I always want to use this sizing tool provided by the vendor because I mean, I happen to have fabric because I'm a knitter. I've got fabric rulers, but the majority of people wouldn't. You could go to Google and download one, but you don't know if it's to scale properly on the 8.5 by 11 or 8, whatever the measurement of a typical piece of paper. I don't know if it's going to be so that's super smart.
And in fact, they're not, because that's how I started creating my digital download ruler. I'm like, well, I can just do something else. And I downloaded a bunch of them. And then some of the websites were really sketchy looking. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but a lot of them were wrong because I modeled it after the ones I got online and they didn't work. So it was a lot of trial and error to actually get it right. And it's just for a standard letter size piece of paper.
I think also just like throw out their ideas for listeners. If you wanted to provide something like that in each listing for free, you could like link to it in a Dropbox or a Google Drive. Or you could have a QR code in your photo gallery of like that would take them to that link when they just click the QR code and then they could download it and do it. You want to like remove as many barriers to entry as possible. But I also think you could have it as a listing because some people might look for it that way too. That is super smart. Yeah. Cause I feel like even in like the clothing or print on demand niche, you offer the size chart. Nobody's looking. I mean, they're not measuring themselves most of the time. They're just guessing. So that's so interesting. Do you know what? I have such a random question for you, Kelley, but after we heard about your lovely husband's culinary skills, I want to know where you make jewelry now. I just like inquiring minds need to know, where do you make them now?
I have a gem den.
Oh, okay. I knew it was going to be good. Tell me about the gem den. Please tell me you have a neon sign. I need like what?
No, not yet. I have pictures of it online. We live in a 2-bedroom house. And so we have our bedroom, and then the other one is my office, which we call the gem den.
Oh my gosh.
And I was doing my Etsy course for Skillshare, and I found pictures of my workspace throughout time. And so I did a little slideshow of that because it's tough. You know, it's all an evolution.
Yes.
You know, you look at my office now, and it's pretty. It's teal and it has a chandelier and like not a $100 Home Depot chandelier, but a chandelier nonetheless. And, people can see that and it looks aspirational. It does. But I started at my kitchen table and then, I had my gem den that was just very austere. I took a picture of it and I had this empty desk. I had my business cards and a candle next to it and some pliers. And that's what I had. It was very tiny. And I, at one point in time, bought these little boxes. I can't remember where, but I labeled one Etsy and one was, I think, for things that I was going to sell in person. And it was this big, that's what I was thinking. Like I was not dreaming big enough. Clearly, like that's where I was going to put all of my Etsy jewelry for listing was in this one tiny little box. And now I have a whole room and I still have, I never get rid of that box. I had an Etsy on the front of it and it's displayed and it will always be displayed in the gem den.
Yes, I remember in the beginning I was base painting signs on our island, which our island is like granite or whatever, but it was just, what is that? Like just a simple plastic
laminate.
Pardon me? Laminate, right? Is that what you said? Laminate? Yeah, it was something really simple like that. And we're like scraping the white paint off of it every night after, you know what I'm saying? Like it's so funny. And then you end up with a whole studio, but that's part of the fun of it. And I don't think you have to have all the bells and whistles to start it all. Okay, so we need to move into what you've been doing with Skillshare, because I think what I love about Skillshare is that it's so affordable for people to be able to get continuing education. I really like how accessible that they make it for everybody. Like there's millions of different topics on there. So tell us, you've been on Etsy since 2015, right? I have that right? 2013.
2013. Mm-hmm.
And then you have made, how many sales are you at now?
On Etsy, I'm at about 14,000.
14,000 sales. You've exceeded $655,000 in revenue. So you are very equipped to create content to help other Etsy sellers who sell physical products or otherwise, because so many of the skills just carry over in the actual building of the shop. So tell us what you've been creating on Skillshare to help Etsy sellers.
Well, I had been teaching digital art on Skillshare using the Procreate app, and I taught 15 classes on Skillshare about digital art. And I just decided last year that I wanted to teach on Etsy. I went back to the basics. Like I said, I read the Etsy seller handbook, like not all of it, but
it's
a lot of it.
So good, isn't it? It tells you everything you need.
It does. It does. It does. I mean, with so many things, you're like, like I like to say that I got my business doctorate at the University of Google, because you just have to Google things. You just have to figure things out.
YouTube them. Yes.
As a business owner. So I went back to the basics, and I wanted to make this accessible to everybody. And it was really challenging to make a class like the first class, because it's going to be a series. But I wanted the first class to be like an intro, because when I was creating this class, I was in a mastermind group with some women, and one of them was from Amsterdam. She's like, I don't even know what Etsy is exactly. And so there's people that don't even know what Etsy is. So, so it's about the pros and the cons of selling on Etsy. And the big pro is that there is a lot of people shopping on Etsy. And the big con for Etsy is that there's a lot of competition in a lot of categories. Like it's that simple. So like you, I really believe in niching, and I came up with 4 ways to stand out on Etsy. And it's make it weird, make it specific, make it personalized, and make it giftable. And I think, ideally you're stacking a couple of them to come up with a micro niche. And so there's so many weird listings on Etsy. I searched all the weird listings. There's taxidermy mice doing the dirty dancing move, like Dirty Dancing.
Oh, I love that movie.
So when he's holding her up, people have taxidermy mice reenacting this on Etsy, and they sell, it's like $100 a mouse is their general pricing. So $200.
I have no words, Kelley. I have no words for that at all.
And then there's another shop that has taxidermy mice that are reenacting the draw me like one of your French women, draw me like one of your French girls.
Oh my gosh.
It's just hilarious. And there's chocolate denture lollipops at a higher price point. Lollipops made of chocolate that are shaped like a denture.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And it said it was perfect for an over-the-hill party or a dentist. And I'm like, if someone threw me an over-the-hill party and served chocolate lollipop dentures, they would not be my friend. And like this woman, if she was just selling chocolate lollipops that were just like a little ball or something, she's not going to sell. But because they're shaped like dentures, they're going to sell.
People love that. Yeah.
There's a bestseller that is handmade soap shaped like a baked potato.
Right.
And I think this soap was like $10 or $12 for a 4.5 ounce soap. Right. So, like there are so many weird things on Etsy, and people are killing it in these really weird niche areas.
So, here, I know. Where do we even go from there? So you have a basic, like an entry level Etsy course over there. Guys, I have not reviewed it, but Kelley's results speak for themselves. I just always like to tell you when I've gone through something and I haven't. She and I have been talking for over an hour now, and her results in her shop speak for themselves. But how can people take advantage of that? Because I love Skillshare. I think the concept is really great. Tell people how easy it is to, and we'll link it, of course, but how to get on there and consume that kind of content.
Well, as a Skillshare seller, I have a link that I can share with your audience for a free month on Skillshare.
We love that.
Is for new members. So people who are new to Skillshare, so they can access it that way if they're new to Skillshare. And I'm on Skillshare under my name, which is Kelley Bren Burke. And I also have a market research guide workbook to offer your customers, your customers, we've been talking about customers, to offer your audience. So it's a guide that would talk them through the 4 ways to stand out on Etsy, and then also ways to do market research. So it will tell you to look at different shops and look at the price points and look at the photography and just figure out what's out there in your niche. So you can do the research, hopefully before you go through making the product and listing the product and marketing the product. Like, you really want to see what's out there before you start.
Okay, if you guys have been listening to me for more than 20 minutes, you've probably heard me talk about the 3 most important components of a successful Etsy shop. So number 1, a product that people are actually searching for and buying right now. Number 2, beautiful product photos that stand out in the search results. And number 3, your SEO or keywords, which really simply just means your Etsy listings need to include the exact same phrases that your shoppers are searching for up there in that Etsy search bar. In fact, even if shoppers are buying your product like gangbusters from other shops and your pictures are like the quality to be on the cover of a magazine, if you don't have your SEO nailed and those perfect word phrases all throughout your Etsy listings, shoppers will literally never find you. So wait. Don't feel discouraged. I've got you. I want to let you in on my secret weapon for SEO on Etsy. It's a website called Sale Samurai that mines all of Etsy's shop and listing data so that you don't have to. Thank you. You can find out what keyword phrases are searched the most for every single niche and how many listings are using them so that you can understand how steep the competition is. That is so helpful. So within the program, you're able to see details like hundreds of other keywords you can use, what shops and listings are performing the best in your space, what the pricing competition looks like, and so much more. It's literally a goldmine of information that will help you compete in the search results. So if you would like to get a sneak peek of exactly what Sales Samurai can do, why I love it so much, what makes it so powerful, I created a YouTube video that will give you that overview. So check that out. It will be linked in the podcast show notes for you. And so Sales Samurai is a very reasonable monthly membership that you're going to want to maintain because you're going to do this research constantly in your Etsy shop. And they have very generously given me a 20% off for life coupon code just for you guys. So you get to start with a free trial, but go through my link so that they'll give you that lower rate for as long as you stick with the service. We all need to save a few bucks here and there. So the code is how to sell your stuff. There's no spaces between the words and it's all lowercase. But of course, I will just link their site, the discount code, and that YouTube mini tutorial for you all down in the show notes. I'm so excited for you guys to get your hands on this one. I'm obsessed with it. I literally use it every day. I use it with my clients. We help them get the edge. And I just know how much it can help you with that SEO game. So I definitely encourage you to give it a try. And Kelley, tell them, because this is such a fun little thing. I'm like really excited for you breaking into this space. And they're just like Etsy, there's like more than enough room at the table for more people teaching and helping with Etsy because we all have a different set of experiences, and we know different ways of going about it. But tell them, so you just made your course live on Skillshare last night. Tell us how well it's doing already. How many views and things do you have on it already?
I have 15 students the last time I checked, and Skillshare defines a student as anyone who's watched beyond the intro. And I have who exceeds standards reviews. And I was so happy to wake up to those because you put something out there and I really thought it was good, but you don't know how it's going to land. Right. I think all of us as business owners know that you're not sure how it's going to land. So I was really happy to see that.
I was going to say, I hope you're patting yourself on the back because that's incredible. That's insane.
I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy to go into this niche, and being self-employed is like completely transformed my life. And so if I can even help one person, transform their lives like that, it would be very meaningful to me. When we were filming the class, my husband does my video editing too.
What a guy. Films, cooks.
I
just love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And he said, I was talking about my experience on Etsy, and before I film, I always try and like just kind of channel myself and think about who the message is going to, and just like, quiet myself and just think about the why. And he said, it sounds like you're talking to a baby Kelley. And I was like, I was. That's exactly what I was doing. I was talking to myself in 2006, who thought that I was not cool enough to sell on Etsy.
No, there's so much opportunity for so many of us, and we just have to find those hidden opportunities. It's amazing. So thank you for putting that out in the world, and thank you for being willing to share. Where are the best places for people to find you and connect? Obviously, we're going to link Skillshare. You guys check it out. If you can get on there free and go through it, that is a huge deal. So where else though? Are you on social places that we should come find you?
I am on Instagram, and I have a website, and it's all under my name, Kelley Bren Burke.
Okay, that will all be linked. She's Kelley. It's like the fun spelling of Kelley, Kelley. But yes. I will go ahead and link. You guys know I'm a show notes nut. Is there anything else? You know what, Kelley? I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second, because I recently started a new. What's the word I'm looking for? A new tradition. I don't think I emailed you about this, where having a guest, did I tell you this? I did tell you this, where I'm having a guest leave a question for the next guest. So first of all, let me give you yours. Oh, actually, I'm so glad you're getting this one. The question for you is, what's one mistake that you made in your business that actually ended up making it better?
Ooh.
It could be basically because of something you learned out of that mistake, transformed how you do things, but just anything, or something you thought was a mistake that ended up being the best thing. It's such a good question. I actually love it.
Yeah. I think it comes from customer feedback. Like, one thing I can think of is I sell copper jewelry, copper beaded bracelets, and copper naturally tarnishes more so than sterling silver. And some people like the shiny copper, and some people, like, in your skin affects it too. So people would be complaining that the copper would tarnish, and that's just the nature of copper. So I have these little pro polish pads that, are like 2 inches long, and they polish all kinds of jewelry. So I started putting one in every copper bracelet with every copper bracelet order. So then they would understand, they would have something that would polish their jewelry, and they would understand. So that took those complaints away. And the other one would just be sizing of bracelets. Like I said, it's a pain point for my customers. I actually did something that you recommended too. I didn't have any videos in my shop. So you had said, do a slideshow from Canva things with your FAQs. So I now have a video on every bracelet listing that talks about the most common bracelet sizes for women, for men, how to measure, and that kind of thing. And sales absolutely went up when I did that. And
no way!
And I also, because of that, for a long time, I send a confirmation email that says, thank you for your order. I wanted to confirm the bracelet size. You ordered a 7-inch bracelet. That should work well for a 6.5-inch wrist. If you wanted a different size, let me know. I think, and that's something I have saved as an auto response. So it's really easy. I think connecting with customers from the beginning is a good way to get great reviews, because they see that you are a real person who is talking to a real person, and you're making that connection from the beginning.
I love it. Okay, great on the spot answer, Kelley. And what question do you want to leave for a future guest?
I have this question. What is really easy for you and really difficult for most other people?
That's right. You emailed me this. I kind of wonder. Yeah, go ahead. What is really easy for you and difficult for other people? Really easy.
Because I think that's people's genius, and I think people will often discount their own genius because, making jewelry was fun for me, right? But it's not fun for other people. And you think, oh, it's just really fun. I don't need to price it very high. I would just do this anyway. But you have to remember that things that come really naturally to you are your gifts. And you shouldn't you should give your gifts away. But if you're selling it, make some money while you're doing it, you know?
Otherwise, we end up with a lot of stuff on the shelves.
Yes.
Yeah.
1 mile to precious life. And yeah,
I love it. I wonder if we need to start having people just share their answer to their question, but like go with what they emailed me and not tell me you guys if you have feedback on that. Like, do you like hearing the person answer the question and then share their question? Or do I like eliminate the part where they share their question and I just save it for the next person? I don't always know what's best. Tell me what's fun for you. I know that I'm such a behind the scenes person. Like I just like let it all hang out for y'all. So maybe having that be messy at the end is great and you love it. Let me know. Kelley, what do you think? What is your vote?
I like hearing the answer. I love like questions. Like I have books of questions around here. We do it if we're on road trips. I like doing different thought-provoking questions. I'm like not a small talk person. So I want to get to the interesting stuff right away.
I love that about you. Do you think it's messy though, also having them share their question at the end, like answering one and then sharing the next one? Or is it fun hearing that person you think say it? You haven't heard anyone do it yet because those all got recorded this week.
I would like it because I like when you asked me that, I Googled questions for, I'm a Google.
That's smart. Okay.
Questions for podcasts. And I don't remember if that one was actually in there or if I just came to it from looking, but I like having those questions available. Like just
I think it's super fun. I got to figure out who's going to be answering this because I am super intrigued. Kelley, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you're putting out into the world and for serving the Etsy community. It's been really fun getting to chat with you today, and I appreciate you.
You know what? Right back at you, Lizzie. Your podcast, you are unique in this space, and I appreciate that. And I, as a 10-year plus Etsy seller, I learned so much from you.
That blows my mind.
It's the honest to goodness truth. Truly is.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm so glad that you're here. This worked out great. So thank you for applying. And you guys, thanks for listening. Go check out Kelley's course on Skillshare and especially learn how to make it weird because that was a really fun part of the conversation. And until next week, you guys go make something awesome. Have a great one. I love y'all. And that's a wrap on this episode of How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're looking for more resources, head on over to howtosellyourstuff.com where you'll find podcast show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, courses, coaching, and more. If this episode was helpful to you, awesome. The greatest compliment I can receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on this podcast. Not only will it allow us to connect again on a future episode, it lets me know I'm providing you with value and helps other people find this content more easily. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. Have a great day and see you next time.